I spoke last Wednesday and I talked a little bit about child advocacy centers and this public-private partnership that we're looking at. But tonight I wanted to focus on something else, and Senator Unger, I think you just really struck a chord for me about how we can, an idea. Last fall I was at a conference in Charleston that was put on by the West Virginia, Prevent Child Abuse West Virginia group. And one of the keynote speakers was Reverend Darrell Armstrong. He's from New Jersey. And he is working on a program that really felt like it was something new and something old. And I wanted to really mention it. I'm not sure how the legislature ties into it, but I think there's a role for the legislature in this. I'm bringing him back. He's coming to a conference in May in Oak Hill. His premise is to train clergy, imams, rabbis, pastors, priests, to when a young family with a young child wants to come into the church through whatever the ceremony might be, whether it's a bris or it's a baptism, that before that takes place, that the parents meet with the pastor 5 to 7 times, and they talk about brain development, and they talk about nutrition, and they talk about safety. All of the issues that I think all of us in the room growing up, our parents were connected to in a very different way than the parents of today are, maybe now are very disconnected to. And I think that the poverty issue, and again in Oak Hills, a number of people talked about what the community was like back in our day and how everybody pitched in and helped out. And a number of the people who spoke were speaking from the experience of poverty, and they were proud of that fact. And even in poverty, there was a richness, a moral richness there that I really think is slipping away. And I think that this idea of going back to some moral roots might be something that might be very helpful in this discussion. You know, I know you've heard and we've all heard all the stories about drug abuse and everything that's going on in poverty. But I think this is an idea that has some, you know, a potential to really make a difference in our communities. I spoke to this at a poverty forum that was held here a couple of Saturdays ago, and a pastor stood up and said, well, you want me to go out and recruit people to do this? And that wasn't my intention at all, nor Reverend Armstrong. These are people who are already in a church, who are having children and want to bring them into the church. And I think that's a really optimal time to start talking about some of the things. I remember years ago the whole piece about, well, when a child's born, they should come with a manual, and they don't. And in our line of work, and I do want to, I'll put one little tiny pitch in about child sexual abuse, because we don't talk about it enough, and it is an issue that we need to. We interviewed 2 young boys, 4 and 8 years old, whose father put jumper cables on their penis as a punishment because they didn't, well, the 8-year-old came home with bad grades. Now, that sounds unbelievable, I think, to all of us. But did he not know better? Is this something that happened to him as a kid? If he had had this opportunity to meet with somebody from the religious community, that likely would not have happened. He hopefully would have found other behavioral techniques to use with his children to work on their behavior. But that's what's happening every day, and we're interviewing children. 2 weeks ago, we interviewed 12 children in 1 week who were criminally abused, sexually, physically, or neglectfully. This is not that's one of hundreds of stories that I can tell. I'm not going to tell any other stories. But I think it's important that we start really thinking about what can we do differently. And it's exciting to know that the Senate is doing this and that people are interested in here, and hopefully we'll get somewhere. Thank you very much.
My name is Jim Pettus. I'm the program coordinator for the Teen Pregnancy Prevention Program with CASE, West Virginia. And we cover Mercer, McDowell, Monroe County, and we've been in discussions about, maybe trying to offer some of the programming here in Raleigh County. We have a federally approved curriculum, and really just wanted to make the community aware that, we're here for the community to, combat the pregnancy problem with teens. As we know, that a lot of times leads to poverty issues with teen pregnancy. As far as our curriculum is concerned, it really spends a lot of time doing role plays with the students in the classroom setting, really focusing on delay tactics, refusal skills, setting goals, just basically letting the kids know that they have options. We've been doing the program for about 10 years now, and obviously, we've got our hands full in the southern part of the state with some of the counties there. But it's definitely a fight worth fighting, and I just want to make everyone aware that I guess in some ways the first knee-jerk reaction is a sex ed program, but it's far from that. When we're spending more time really trying to focus on some of the emotional consequences, not just the financial consequences. And we see how much of our tax-paying dollars in this state are going for unintended pregnancies, and we just wanted to let the folks in Raleigh County know that we're here to do anything we can to help combat the problem, because it's not a southern West Virginia problem or northern part of the state. It's everywhere. And we have 4 educators that spend pretty much the whole school year somewhere, and most of our programming is an 8-day program, and honestly, it's something that we hope to help parents with, if they're having those discussions about good choices and healthy lifestyle at home. But as we all know, some kids don't get that, and we're just trying to support the efforts of the teachers and the staff and the parents. But the big thing was, I just wanted to come tonight to just make everyone aware that we hope to offer some programming in the area, mainly targeting middle school with a message about, like I said, refusal skills and delay tactics, and putting them in role plays where they can practice saying no, because as we all know, saying no is sometimes very difficult for a teenager. So I think we're seeing some impacts. When we were doing some programming in one of the schools in McDowell County, we had 10 kids that decided to go visit the local health department just to be checked and things because of some of their at-risk behavior. And like I said, we're just here for the community, and we want to do what we can and with our part to help combat the problem. And like I said, we go over 4 counties now, and we're just trying to do our part and get the word out and raise awareness. We do send consent forms home to the parents to make them aware, because obviously we want to have their support in the topic. But in the end, just wanted to make the community aware and you guys aware that we are here for Raleigh County.
See a lot of friends here, fellow educators. My name is Martine. I'm principal at Meadow High School. And Meadow High School is a small high school in Fayette County, not too far from Greenbrier, not far from Summers. Gateway to no place, probably entrance to nowhere. If you're in my community and you say I happen to stop by, I know we were a destination, because there's no doubt about it. We talk a great deal about poverty, and we talk about what we can do. And about 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet an individual by the name of Dr. Ruby Payne, and she worked with the Framework for Understanding Poverty. And Mrs. Manchin kind of insisted that maybe I might take her course. And I didn't realize, because I've sat through certain courses, they're 2-3 hours. This was 5 days of understanding poverty up at Stonewall. And what happened is that being out of poverty, being out of foster homes myself, I forgot what it was like to be in poverty. I forgot the anxieties that it was like to be in poverty. And we were in a good situation that we were able maybe to start using some of the things that I learned from this 5-day course. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There is information that is out there. And not only Framework on Poverty, there's Bridges, there's a number of various programs that really dissect what it's like. Many of us, if we're from poverty, we might not know how to exist in middle class. If we're in middle class, we might not know how to exist in upper class. And basically, if we're in middle class, we might not know how to exist in poverty and what it takes. One of the things that we did about 6 years ago is I got my faculty to buy into that we were going to change our mindset. And yet most of my faculty was from poverty. But we needed to do certain things that would enhance our students' learning. 6 years ago, we might have been graduating 70% of our students. We're a 7 to 12 school. But we started with our 7th grade. Our dropout recovery started in the 7th grade. We were very fortunate in a way because being a smaller school of less than 300. But what we have accomplished over the last 5 years are the goals that this state is trying to achieve, and we have already achieved them. There's a lot of other goals we still need to achieve. 95% of our students graduated last year. That was up from 88%. And for 5 years, we have averaged over 90% graduation at Meadow Bridge High School in Fayette County. Attendance is so very important. One of the things that the county did, they had an automatic system that would call the houses and the homes, checking on individuals that were absent. What we found is that most of the kids that were absent were picking up the phone, thanking them, and dropping it back. So we started following up on the individuals that we knew would be truant. Now, high schools aren't really graded on attendance, but I'm going to tell you, when you have an attendance rate of 95%, it helps. Our kids are there. U.S. News and World Report rated us as one of the better high schools in the nation, but I didn't really understand why, but our Superintendent Butcher, explained to me why. Because what he realized in the report was 43% of our students were taking advanced placement courses. That's 43%. That's higher echelon. We were taxing them. We were making them think, but we wanted them to come to school. Our high expectations, yeah, we have 7 AP courses in a very small school. And it's not that we offer the AP courses. Our kids take the AP courses. We don't give them a lot of choices. I mean, in a small school, you're either going to take an AP 12 or you're going to take a regular general education. If you're doing well on the West test, you're doing good, you're going to take the AP. As simple as that. There are case studies that can be taken of certain communities. And I really thank this committee for coming out. I invite you to come down to Meadow Bridge. I invite you to come down and visit us at any time. There's a difference when you walk into my school. The coffee pot is not back with the secretaries. We pay for the coffee, but it's up front. So if you come in, you can get a cup of coffee. But more than that, when I get a disgruntled parent coming in, I understand. I can offer them a cup of coffee, some water, sit down, that kind of cools them off. And 9 times out of 10, when they leave my office, they understand. But why do they understand? Because I understood, having gone through this framework on poverty, exactly how to better communicate. I thank you all.
I'm Bob Baker. I retired a couple of years ago from the legal aid program here in Beckley. I'd worked for 30 plus years in legal aid in Fayette County first and then in Raleigh County. I actually opened the Fayette County Apple Red office in the fall of 1977. So over that time, until my retirement anyway, I represented 100% of my clients who were people who were in financial poverty, not necessarily moral poverty, but financial poverty. During that time, we did a lot of bankruptcy actions where we tried to solve people's financial problems through bankruptcy. Many of those were for one of three reasons. Medical debt that they just couldn't pay, credit card debt that they couldn't pay, and an inability to pay their mortgage. We couldn't help them that much with the mortgages because those were all secured loans. But we could help with the medical bills and the credit card bills. And today I'd like to talk mostly about the problems people have with medical debt. It was really the main thing that we saw that caused people to go into bankruptcy. In addition to the bankruptcy folks, I saw hundreds and hundreds of clients who just couldn't afford to take their kids to the doctor until CHIP came in a few years ago. And they couldn't afford to take themselves to the doctor if they had anything serious going on with them. Those folks brought sick kids into my office. I took that home sometimes, unfortunately. They would tell me about their inability to get the health care they needed, other than by going to the emergency room, which we know is the most expensive way to provide health care. What I think is very important to help stabilize, financially stabilize families in this state is to, particularly the low-income families, is to get the Medicaid expansion that's provided in Obamacare through in the state. That will stabilize hundreds of low-income families that are having health troubles of one kind or another. And one thing this committee could do would be to pass a resolution encouraging the governor to expand Medicaid to cover up to, I think it's 138% of poverty, which is essentially the client community I had for 30 plus years. If that could be done, I think that would help folks a lot in terms of being able to feel secure in how they can manage their lives. Because 95% of the clients I had were good, honest people who were just struggling to get by, and any sort of a blow in the medical area would knock them off course in a way that they almost couldn't recover from. Bankruptcy helped a lot, but they still have that stress and that worry from the medical needs that they might have, and their kids until CHIP came in. You know, and having 95% of your low-income people be good, honest people is really about all you can expect in a social system. It's essentially what you look at in a scientific experiment where you want to have a 95% confidence interval that what you're getting is not by chance. And I think that's true with our low-income folks, that 95% of them are good, honest, hardworking, if they're working people. And many of my clients were working people that did not have Medicaid because they were on SSI or because they were a very, very low-income family getting welfare. But all of them were very, with some exceptions. I think it's fair to say that maybe 5% of the people are drug abusers or are cheating the system in some way. And that's at a level that we can live with because that's how everything works. In business, you got 5% of your business out there that'll cheat the public. And at all levels, you can expect there to be 5% bad apples. And that's something that we can live with, but we can help stabilize these families with some help with their financial stability as far as being able to know that they can have a medical emergency and that it won't wipe them out. And that's what this Medicaid expansion will do for low-income people. Now, you know, we have a good crowd here tonight, and as I look around it, I see it's mostly a professional crowd. There aren't that many low-income folks that are here to talk to you today. it might be different. I noticed across the street at the church, there's a whole parking lot full of cars over there, and probably many of those folks are low income, because that's an African-American church here in this community. And this community right around this building is in fact a fairly low-income community here in Beckley. It might make sense to, if you're seeking to get more low-income people, to have these meetings be on a night other than Wednesday night, because here in Beckley, I don't know how it is in other parts of the state, but here in Beckley, folks are in church on Wednesday night. Thanks.
My name is Gleasman. I'm a teacher in Fayette County. Since I moved here in 2002, every school I've worked in has had an SES rate that exceeds 92%. Senator Unger, I thank you for speaking on behalf of teachers and chairing this committee. I hope you one day truly understand the magnitude and the empowerment that results from being heard. The kids are my raison d'etre, hope in the hopeless, the imagining of sunshine when surrounded by gray clouds and rain. Most of my kids have come from single-parent homes or lived with grandparents. Most recently, one of the boys I mentor lives with his grandmother. Both of his parents are in jail. He has a home, the money is tight at the end of the month, and the house is in awful condition. But he has a home. Providing money to his family would help, but will not fix the problem. You see, he simply doesn't care. I'm speaking with you today to urge a paradigm shift, an alteration in perception. I've exhausted myself daily, physically, emotionally, mentally, and cognitively. I need an army. I'm here to tell the legislature and the people listening that you must be part of the solution. After all, I give my kids, my prepubescents, a choice. Are you part of the solution or part of the problem? I've been searching since 2002 for a solution. I was fortunate enough to receive county-sponsored training in Ruby Payne's framework for understanding poverty. Then I went to get my master's in education at Concord so I could have scientific evidence to fortify my teaching practices. According to Payne, all of us need 8 resources. The paradigm shift enters here. Financial resources are but one of the 8. For example, the boy I mentioned earlier, money would help, but he needs someone more than me to care, someone more than me to show him how to dream, hope, and persevere, to open up the possibilities. Having money may get him a car to get his grandmother to the grocery store when she runs out of milk, but money will not grant him the spirituality necessary for him to believe in something larger than his own existence and basic physical needs. He will not know that simply by existing, he is loved. He will not have the emotional resources to choose and control his responses. He will struggle with internal stamina. He is isolated, and his support network is cursory and based solely on educational facilities and individuals who are burdened with an ever-increasing amount of bureaucratic red tape which inhibits a nurturing and empowering relationship. His physical resources are diminished by the fact that we cannot give him extra food at school, and at home he is kept close. Mental resources fall by the wayside because he hasn't been taught what middle-class norms and behavior looks and acts like. Finally, the last of the 8 resources is relationships and role models. This is where, while I espouse the battles and hurdles, I offer a solution. What would you do if a kid, during the last few minutes of class, said she had something to show you? She raises her sleeve and reveals the dozens of razor marks she makes from wrist to forearm. At that same moment, another 20 kids begin to enter your classroom. I taught for the next 49 minutes and then talked to the principal and guidance counselor during my 49-minute planning period. After school, I called her mother twice, right before I had to go and help with after-school tutoring for 2 hours. I talked to 2 therapists 3 times on the phone and called her mother the next day. Here's the number, Mrs. Jones. They do accept chips. I talked to the girl and then followed up with the mother to verify that the appointment was made and that she had proper transportation to get there. This is just one of my kids and one occurrence in an at least 10-hour day. These kids pick us, but they need all of us. My kids, these kids, need mentors and role models. They need you and you and you and you. They need all of us. And most of all, they need love. I'm not asking for everything. I'm telling you that my kids need this one thing. In order to do that, my recommendation is to expedite the background check and waive the background check fee that is necessary and mandated for volunteers. Allow volunteers to more freely enter our schools. Open the gates and let the village once again begin to raise our kids. It took a village to raise most of us. We need help. I need homemakers, miners, nurses, BMX riders, entrepreneurs, cops, cooks, grandmas, farmers, hunters, quilters, ministers, auctioneers, and politicians in my classroom. Come to my classroom and celebrate Michael's A in geography, Shannon's avoidance of a physical fight, and Jamal's daring to train. Come and show my kids that the past does not define us. Give my kids an hour, and they will return your time with their own lifetime of dreams fulfilled. You are the solution. Your being here is the first step. It is time to take the next step. My kids need you. I need you.
My name is Grace Sayre. I am the statewide director for Family Options Providers. We're a social services agency who's based here in southern West Virginia, but we serve the majority of the state. I wanted to come and speak with you all tonight to tell you what I see every day, 8 hours a day, after work, before I go in. Most of what we do at Family Options Providers is socially necessary services, which means that it's mandated by the DHHRs. I know that there are some of you guys who serve on those committees and that there are some of those here who are involved with the DHHR. That is an amazing thing, to be able to be a part of that world, to be able to go into someone's home where they're already broken and to help fix them. We're oftentimes the first line of defense because, let's face it, the DHHRs don't have the availability to be there every day for hours at a time every week to try to help these families. We all know that poverty contributes to domestic violence, it contributes to substance abuse, it contributes to truancy. We know that poverty contributes to mental illness. We know that children who don't have enough to eat or a safe place to sleep can't pay attention. And we know that this is a cycle. The big thing that I would like to see change about the way that our system focuses is that we are getting these children when they're broken. We're getting these families after something has happened where they have no help, they have no transportation, they are living at a minimum wage, if that, subsistence level. They're below the poverty line. We need to find a way to reach these families before they come to me, before the DHHR is involved, before the money that we have to spend becomes so exponential that we can't afford to help fix these families. We need to find a way to reach out to these, whether it's through volunteerism, through counseling, whether it is through invitations to come and do things like speak to your senators. We need to find ways to find these families, bring them in, and fix them before they break. Some of the ways that we can do that, one of the things, I see Scott Miller here, he works with counseling children. One of the things that my company also does is works with families who have issues that are Medicaid-based. We can do behavioral therapy as well as socially necessary services. And sometimes behavioral therapy can help to fix these problems that these parents have, where they don't know how to handle a 2-year-old being a 2-year-old. They don't know how to handle lack of a job. They don't know how to handle poverty. They weren't born here. How many of you guys look at a child and said, "What would you like to be when you grew up?" And they said, "Poor"? No one wants to be poor. They want to grow up and be astronauts. Our educational system should be helping them, but these children cannot be educated when they can't think, when their stomachs are growling, when they're scared to go home because their father or their mother or their uncle or someone in their life may abuse them. There are so many things that are wrong with the way that we deal with poverty, and so many things that I think that we're making steps to do right. I would like to see us expand some of the services that are currently socially necessary services and only available through the DHHR to some of these families that don't meet that criteria yet. I would like to be able to answer that woman who calls me and says, "I need help with parenting. I can't afford it. What do I do?" I'd like to be able to tell her something other than, "I'm sorry, ma'am." Youth services with the DHHR is voluntary, but most people don't even know that that is a voluntary option. We need to do better at educating our parents and our communities and removing the stigma associated with things like behavioral health, mental health, to allow these families who don't have transportation to have someone like my company or the hundreds of others that are in West Virginia come into their home and help them become better parents, help them become better equipped to deal with the disadvantages that they are in, help them become better for their children, help them stop that cycle. With all of the thousands of families in West Virginia that live in poverty, there is something that we can do. There are things that we should be doing. I don't know what all the right answers are, but I do know that a large portion of this should come from us, from those of us who are fortunate enough to have never gone to bed hungry, who are fortunate enough to have not ever worried about whether or not we could feed our children. We should be looking at these families and figuring out what we had differently than what they do now, and working with them to have those same backgrounds, coping skills, and ways to deal with their lives.
I feel privileged to stand up here with several of the speakers and how well they've spoken. My name is Ruth Baker. I'm a Raleigh County resident, and I was the counselor at Daniels Elementary until 2 years ago when I retired. And in fact, I was back subbing the last month or so, and when Senator Unger told his story about the little boy, I was reminded of a little boy I saw at Daniels this last month at lunch, who I kept watching him, and I realized he brought a paper or plastic bag to school, and he would run up and grab food and put it in his pocket. And you know why, and I know why, and that was his focus of the day. So it's common. I want to speak about one facet of education, and I want to preface it by saying, after working many years in Raleigh County as an educator, I'm incredibly proud to have served with the educators that are talented and motivated here in Raleigh County. I feel like we've gone through a period where educators are bashed, that we're not good enough. I think we're remarkable, as attested by the young teacher who spoke a moment ago. I also think people do this because they know the flip side of this is that they know educators can do something, and I believe that is true too. We can't do it all, but we can do a lot. So in speaking, as Senator Unger did, on the importance of age 0 to 8, this is where it all happens. I firmly believe that it's a great step to make our preschools all day for all students. I think this is one way that we're going to work toward overcoming some of the effects of child poverty. At the same time, I see a great need to increase both counseling and social work resources in the elementary years. Adding counselors allows teachers to have help with the multiple problems that come into our schools. Raleigh County began an elementary program 25 years ago. Originally, I was one of those people, and I served 6 schools. And when I retired, I was serving 1, and I felt I was an important part of an educational team. Having 1 counselor at each elementary school, however, is not usual. Many of our county schools share elementary counselors, and there are counties in West Virginia where they have 1 elementary counselor for the entire county. The recommended ratio for counselors in the United States is 1 counselor for every 250 students. My school, it was 1 counselor for 600 students. I understand the state ratio is about 1 for 380. And of course, our high schools have a much higher ratio. So, you know, the elementaries have many less. One of the best programs that came and went, I felt, was the truancy diversion program. We had this in Raleigh County where we had social workers to work with us. They worked closely with the counselors and school personnel to get to the root of attendance problems. I would like to see this program return, along with increasing the number of elementary counselors to at least 1 per school. So that's a recommendation I would make. All parents will tell you education is important, and they want their children to go to college, but many do not see the importance of the early years. This is the one where our habits, our goals, and our attitudes form. A parent may think that attendance is important, but then they may have a long list of, beyond illness, of acceptable reasons for their child not to go to school. And they may include doctor and dentist appointments. My child doesn't feel good, he was bullied. We're visiting family, I need him to help around the house. It's his birthday. I remember parents coming in to pick kids up for haircuts because they had baseball at 4 o'clock and they had to get the haircut in during school. I remember another parent coming in and I asked why she was there, and she said, well, my son sent me a text saying there was a substitute today. And I came to get him. So now you might guess, those of course are not poor families. Those families have cars, they have phones, they have sporting events, they have busy lives. And if they don't think that attendance in elementary school is important, could we expect low-income parents to think it's important? Parents will be surprised to learn that if your child misses 18 days of school a year, that puts you at risk to not read by 3rd grade and not graduate from high school. That, by the way, is only 2 days a month. One of the things counselors and social workers do with parents is spend the time getting to know them, look at the obstacles, and help plan with them how to make things better. I think it makes a real difference in attendance. Research also tells us that families who read daily to their kids, visit the library, have a huge leg up on academic achievement. Again, habits form early. Children who love stories, make friends with words, and have books of their own have a big advantage in our schools. West Virginia Read Aloud is a statewide organization that promotes reading at home and trains parents and community people to become better readers in our schools. Raleigh County has 9 schools currently participating. At Daniels, I'm proud to report that we have a parent or community person reading in every classroom. Children who see their parents come and read get to have a great boost of pride and see that school is important in their family. This is one of the best ways for parents and community members to be involved at school. The program is run by volunteers and deserves our support. I want to mention one other thing before I leave. One program I understand is available in other communities, which we do not have here, is the Imagination Library. This is a program that the Dolly Parton Foundation started that mails one age-appropriate book per month to children from birth to 5, regardless of income. This would mean that every child entering our preschools would have a library with 48 books. That would stand in great contrast with the children now entering kindergarten. We have some who hold a book with curiosity but no familiarity for the first time. A teacher alone cannot make up this difference. Thank you very much for listening.